So far, I'm seeing the floor. Ta-da! Are we masks on? Oh, yeah, Gladys there. I can't see Glory. John, you want to scoot a little bit this way, or? All right, now, why does it say end stream? Hey, we're going. We're on. Look at that. Say good morning.
Good morning.
I don't know who's watching. I'm trying to get in here. This is a first from the parish hall. It's a Bible Expo because it's I call it more than a Bible study. It's more of what's affecting our lives. It's an exploration. It's an expose, if you want to call it that. And it's also looking at different translations from the Sunday's gospel. So we're going to try this for a few minutes and see who out there is watching. We know we have some faithful 7 who, because of COVID, are staying home, and some people in the parish might want to find out what we just heard. So we're going to hear the gospel in different sections, and then we'll go back over it with some reflections. Okay, Gladys, you want to start us off? Tell us what the gospel was, or Sunday? The site.
Taken from John 2.
John 2.
Verses 1 through 11.
Okay.
And it's
No.
what it involved really. I think this is Jesus' first miracle, isn't it not?
We'll get to that. Why don't you read it for us? Start.
Oh,
Yeah.
on the third day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, excuse me, they have no wine. And Jesus said to her, woman, what concern is that to you and to me? My hour has not yet come.
Okay. If you have your markers, if you want to underline that, or if you want to highlight that, it's a quote of Jesus. That's what we're going to be doing, looking back at what this possibly means.
What page are we on now?
We're on John
In the book here,
chapter
John.
2.
in this book. John.
Oh, in the book he's looking.
Yeah, in the
Okay.
book I'm looking at.
Okay, John, you want to continue it?
Okay, John.
She went ahead.
Um,
Let John continue.
Okay. His mother said to the
and
servants,
said to the servants, do whatever he tells you. Now standing there were 6 stone water jars for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to them, fill the jars with water, and they filled them up to the brim.
Okay, all right, John, carry on.
Then he told them, now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet. They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom.
Okay.
aside.
Gladys, no, let's have Chauncey. You want to finish that one?
Which one?
He called out to the bridegroom. What? Following it?
Okay. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now. What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him.
All right. That's some good stuff. And we're going to see a lot of in this. a lot in this because of the sign. You take John's gospel, we know it was written probably in the year 100. The story is self-contained about a wedding. We talked about what a wedding was in that day, and why a sign. So I'm going to get to all that. So the wedding. What do we know about a wedding in those days? Who was invited to the wedding?
The entire village.
The entire village. Bingo. Who's invited to this wedding that John is writing about in this particular story? It's all of us. We're all invited. Notice he says, who's there? Remember, John even makes a point. Who is attending this wedding? Who did he say? He said his mother's there. And who else? And the disciples. So we don't know exactly who was getting married, but I wouldn't put it too far from John to say maybe a family member. We know Jesus had family, and we know James is called his brother. Maybe that was the wedding. Would make sense. The mother would be there, and all the disciples, they'd all be there, but the entire village is there. What happens in that wedding? You've got a party. We know that the men stay in one side of the village or a house for a week, and the women are in the other, preparing for a week at least. And then they come in with parades. In other words, we've got this other story we talk about later about you don't know when the bridegroom is coming because they've been partying all week, and they're ready to have a big ceremony in the village streets. Now, what do we know that happened during this wedding? What's being told there?
Well, they ran out of wine.
They ran out of wine. Now, you'd think they have a banquet manager because it's a whole village. Everybody's bringing food because that was the way to get in. Everybody participated, the whole village. How do you run out of wine? Yeah. Either somebody forgot something or it just happened that they didn't have enough money for wine. That was in the chosen thing, that they were trying to scrimp on certain things and water it down, and because they didn't have the money. Okay, that's possible also. But wine is a big thing. You're going to see it in a minute. Why it's such a big thing to John 100 years, or at least 70 years later. Okay, they run out of wine. What happens? What takes place there when they run out?
Well, Jesus, Mary
Mm-hmm.
told Jesus that they were out of wine.
Yes.
And
then he responds, what?
what?
How does Jesus respond?
That is none of their business, really, because his time had not
Time.
come.
He uses the word time.
Not the time.
Not the time. Again, I see this as John saying how to handle prayer. The mother is the church in John. In a lot of his writing, he's referring to Mother Church. And if this is the mother, it's people praying, saying, there's something wrong here. We need to fix this. We need to get rid of COVID now. We are out of wine now. What are you going to do, Jesus? And he says, your time is not my time. He's kind of saying that. It's part of the plan, but it's not for you to know when these things are going to occur, when things are going to get better, and they will. So he's also saying, and you see the mother prayer, the prayer of the church, do whatever he tells you. Even the church tells us, if it lasts, if it's good, it will last. It's part of God's plan. So do whatever occurs, whatever continues, is got to be good and part of God's plan. Okay, let's go. What else happens then? What did they do?
They took the water that was there for, well, the rite of purification,
Right?
and But the jars, really,
The
and
jars
they
were
filled
there.
the jars with water.
Right, it's 100-gallon jars. There were 6 of them. Oh, look at that. They actually numbered them, and they knew the size of these jars because water was a kind of an odd thing. You had to go down to the well to get it, and imagine it was a month's worth of water, but the jars were empty. They had to be told to go fill them with water. And then what happens?
The water turned into wine.
Right, they take it to the wine steward, the guy in charge, and all of a sudden it's not just water, it's the best wine. And he's saying, well, you did something weird there. You gave the cheap stuff first and then the very good stuff. And the opposite. Again, a little sign in John that what we expect is going to be the opposite with Jesus, with miracles. It's the opposite. So the things in our lives that we expect, even the minuscule little things, become great in the eyes of God. It can be totally different than what we're expecting and better for us. Now, I mentioned there's a few things in this. Why would this wedding feast be the biggest sign, the first sign? I mean, just changing water into wine? I mean, really? No, it's more than that. You look at the sacraments involved. Look at the symbols involved, like we looked at last week of the baptism. You've got water, obviously stone water jars for Jewish purification, but it becomes in the year 100 and then on baptism. So you've got the water of baptism in this prickly, this little story. You've got the waters changing to wine. We've got part of the Eucharistic celebration, which is essential to have wine. And guess what? Water also. The priest mixes a little drop or two of water in with the wine. And that's basic to our Eucharistic celebration. You've got Mother asking, showing us how to pray, ask, do whatever he tells you, and stepping back and saying, whatever you do is good. Just, and you got that little bit of time in there. You've got a wedding feast. Very important. It's a covenant in the Old Testament. It was a Jewish wedding feast. It was a covenant. 2 people, 2 nations, 2 whatever, come together. And a wedding would be the end of war, a great family. The whole village is married. You think in terms of this wedding feast that goes on around the world every Sunday. It's that banquet. The early church, the banquet was, they had enough food brought in from all over to spread it out to the poor, which was the job of deacons. Spread the leftovers. Okay. You've got a couple of other signs involved in that. That this is, the glory is revealed in that it was not what we expected. Okay. You've got the water, the wine. What else was I saying before? Come on, you've got the people, right? Which, yeah, it was not just men. A wedding involved the entire village. So a lot of the Jewish activities in the temple were strictly for the men. And now we've got these sacraments being given to everyone. It's open to everyone. You've got like almost a priesthood involved in that the disciples were watching and they believed. They had a change in their attitude toward Jesus, which is a leadership attitude. So you've got I'm skipping it, the sacrament of matrimony right there, in that it is blessed by, again, the mother and Jesus doing something special for this new couple and the entire village. Okay. Any closing comments? How about a closing prayer? Someone? We got a lot to think about. We'll be doing some of that after we finish the video part. Let's close the video part with a prayer. Someone? Or-
Almighty and everlasting God, again we welcome thee among us to study thy word. We ask that not only do we remember what we've been taught, but that we live our lives the way that you would want us to live them, that we care for the poor and the needy, and that we appreciate each other as brothers, loving one another as you have loved us. These things we ask in the name of thy precious Son. Amen.
Amen. And I'll end this and we can continue. Thank you for watching, people.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When you turn it off?
All right. It's off.